Hi class, and welcome back to lesson 4, working with fractions. By the end of this lesson, you will know how to convert mixed numbers into improper fractions. You'll be able to add and subtract fractions as well as multiply and divide them. So we're going to start off with part A, which is converting mixed numbers to improper fractions. So when you're converting something like 5 over 2 over 3 into an improper fraction. An improper fraction is basically a fraction where the top number is a bigger number than the bottom one. And that's why it's called an improper fraction, because normally you just write that as a mixed number. For the purposes of this course, you are always going to answer in improper fractions. You're going to use improper fractions to solve most of your solutions. So if you have something like 5, 3, 2 over 3, what this basically says is you have 5 wholes, right, plus 2 over 3 of something. So in order to find 5 wholes, you're just going to take 5, you're going to multiply it by the number, you're going to multiply it by 3, the number at the bottom, right, and then you're going to add 2 and put that all over 3. So in this situation, you have 15 plus 2 divided by 3, right, and then you're going to be left with 17 over 3. Okay, so you're just going to take the whole number, multiply it by the bottom, and add the top number, add the numerator. So let's take this. Let's do 1. You're going to do 1 multiplied by 5 plus 3 all over 5. So I'm going to do 1 times 5, 5 plus 3 over 5. It's going to become 8 over 5. Okay, so try doing B, C, D on your own, and then we can take them up. So pause this video, try it on your own. Okay, welcome back. Right, so we're going to try doing these ones. So you're going to do 2, right, times 7 plus this 3 up here, divided by 7, which was just the number at the bottom. You leave it the same. 2 times 7 is 14, right, plus 3 is going to be 14. Oops, I'm just going to go and write that 14 plus 3 divided by 7. 14 plus 3 we know is 17 over 7. That's my answer. And then C, we're going to do negative. We're going to leave the negative out of this for now. Right? Let's just not deal with the negative right now. Let's just do 3 times 10. And we'll just put that in once we're done. 3 times 10 plus 7. 3 times 10 is 30 plus 7. Oh, all of this over 10. All of this over 10. 37 divided by 10 is 37 over 10. Same thing here. We're just going to leave the negative out of it, and it's just going to be negative, so we're going to put the negative back in. We're going to leave the negative out of it. Let's do 8 times 11 plus 1 all over 11, and we're just going to leave the negative out here. 88 plus 1 divided by 11, leave the negative out here. It's going to be negative 89 over 11. And that's how you convert those. To add or subtract a fraction, and this is really important, to add or subtract a fraction, there must be the presence of a common denominator. So I'm just going to write that in, common denominator. And the denominator, just a little bit of review of terminology here, bottom number. Right, so the anatomy of a fraction, as I like to say, is you have 5 over 10. This is the numerator, and this is the denominator. So let's just go here. So we're looking for a common denominator. That means our number here at the bottom needs to be the same. So we're going to make this into something we call equivalent fractions. Right? So let's make these into equivalent fractions. Let's put this over the same number. We know that we can have 2 go into 8. So let's put everything over 8. 7 over 8 is going to stay the same because it's already over 8. But if I wanted to go from 1 over 2 to something over 8, I would multiply the 2 by 4. So I would do whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do the top. So this would become 4 over 8. Now that they're equivalent fractions, what I can do is I can just go ahead and add them together. So I can do 4 plus 7. And I know that this is negative, so I have to make sure I leave the negative in. Negative 4 plus 7 is positive 3 over 8. Not negative, sorry. Okay. So this is important. You got to change it to an equivalent fraction. Right? And I can't reduce 3 over 8 anymore, so I'm just going to leave that as is. Now I have 12 over 13 and 4 over 7. So I want to find something that both 13 and 7 can go into. And I believe that the lowest I can go here is actually 91. So if I multiply those two together, the lowest common fraction between them is 91. So I got to convert 13 to 91, and I'm going to do that by multiplying by 7. Right, so whatever I do to the bottom, I'm going to do to the top. So I'm going to do 12 times 7. That's going to give me 84. Right, then I'm going to do 7 to 91, I believe, is 7 times 13. Right, same thing as the bottom. So I'm going to do 4 times 13, and that's going to give me 52. So I'm just going to do this in a different color. Multiplied by 13. Multiplied by 13. It's going to give me 52. Right, and now because they're both the same bottom, I can just add the two tops. You don't need to add the bottoms together. You just leave it the same. You just have to add the tops. So you're going to do 84 plus 54, which is going to give me 138. No, it's 52, my bad. 84 plus 52 is going to give me 136. 136 over 91. Can't reduce this anymore, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Okay? Moving onwards. We're going to do negative 9 over 8 minus negative 1 over 2. Before we even get started, let's start to get rid of those negatives. So I have negative 9 over 8. This is a negative and a negative, so it'll turn into a positive, so it'll become 1 over 4. Now I can just put everything over 8. So I'm going to leave the 9 and 8 alone. Right, and I'm just going to change this 1 over 4 to 2 over 8 because it's an equivalent fraction. Right, and then I'm going to do negative 9 plus 2 is going to give me negative 7 over 8, and that's my answer. Okay, moving on, try doing again these by yourself, and then we'll take them up. Just make sure that you change here the mixed fraction to a whole improper fraction. So I'm just going to write these steps for you over here. When adding or subtracting, and this is only when adding or subtracting, not multiplying and dividing, but when adding or subtracting fractions, follow the following steps. Step 1, find a lowest common denominator. Convert all fractions so they have the lowest common denominator. Apparently, according to my okay, you want to make sure they have the same denominator. Add or subtract numerators. And the numerator is just the top number. So the bottom number stays the same. Right? And the top number is the one that you add or subtract. Okay, so following those steps, let's try to do 7. So let's change everything to an improper fraction so that I can actually do it. Right, so let's do 7 times 3 plus 1 over 3 minus 1 over 4. Right, so 7 times 3 is 21 plus 1 is 22 minus 1 over 4. Right, let's change these so that they have the most common denominator, and I believe it's 12. So 3 times 4 will give me 22. So we're going to do 22 times 4. So we're going to do 88. And then from 1 over 4, we're going to go 4 times 3. So we're going to do the top one as 3 as well. So 3 over 12. So you're going to do 88 minus 3, which is going to give me 85. Oops. And of course, you want to have good form. So just bring it up over here. 85 over 12. I can't reduce that anymore, so I'm going to leave it as it is. And that's my answer. Okay, leave it in improper fractions. Don't ever answer it in a mixed number. Just leave it as is. Don't change this to 7, 1, 12. Okay? All right. So we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to see, all right, does 17 possibly go into 34? And if you do that, you'll figure out, yes, it does, right? The other thing is the 17, the fraction is in the numerator. You can just rewrite this as negative 14 over 17. It's the same thing, right? It means the same thing. It's fine. You just multiply everything by negative 1. It's okay. Okay? So let's just do that. So we have negative 14 over 17 plus negative 11 over 34, right? You know that you have a positive and a negative here, which means that this is just going to stay as a negative, right? So let's write that in. Negative 14 over 17 minus 11 over 34, right? Then you're going to say, all right, I want to figure out if 17 can go into 34. It can, so let's just make the denominator for both 34. Right? I don't have to change the 11 over 34, but I do have to change the 17. So 17 times 4 gives me, 17 times 2 gives me 34. So I'm going to do 14 times 2, or negative 14 times 2, which is just going to be negative 28. Sorry, that took me so long to do in my head. So we have negative 28 minus 11, right? Which is going to give me negative 39 minus over 34. And that's my answer. So the important step is from here to here, you have to multiply, right? You're multiplying both by 2. Okay. Alrighty. So just as a reiteration, make sure all your answers are always in the lowest terms, and you do not express your answers as a mixed number ever. So always, it says do not express. I actually want you to express your answer as a mixed. Always leave as mixed number. And I'll fix this on your answer. Oh my goodness, I can't spell today. As mixed number. I prefer that you leave it as a mixed number. Right? It's just easier to work with at that point. Because you need to convert it anyway. Okay? Okay. So, we're done changing mixed numbers. We're done changing adding and subtracting. We're going to do multiplying and dividing. Kind of already gone through this when we did today's lesson. Or when we did lesson 2. But we'll go over it again. So when you are multiplying or dividing fractions, these are the rules you need to follow. To multiply fractions, multiply the numerator, right? So multiply the numerators to the top numbers, and multiply the denominators to the bottom numbers. And then express in simplest terms, or what we call simplify. Right? So you're going to put it into lowest terms. right? So if you have, for example, number A here, the thing that's confusing sometimes is when you have whole numbers. Whole numbers are the same thing as writing just the number over 1, because if you did 6 divided by 1, you would have that whole number. So let's do 1 over 2 multiplied by 6 over 1. You're going to multiply the two top numbers. That's going to give us -6. You're going to multiply the two bottom numbers. That's going to give us 2. I know that I can reduce this further. I can divide both by 2, which would just give me 3 over 1, or just 3. And it's -3 because it's a -6. So -3, right? So try doing B and C on your own. And then you can also use the simplification method if you want. Try doing it the way that you would like to do. We can use the butterfly method here as well. Okay? So stop, try it on your own, come back. All right, welcome back. I'm going to show you how to do this using butterfly method and just using the regular method. So the regular method I'll do in orange, and then butterfly I'll do in purple. And I'll do that next. So we'll put this as butterfly. Okay, so let's just do the regular method. You have 7 over 9 multiplied by 6 over 14. So I'm just going to do 7 times 6, which is going to give me 42. Right, then I'm going to do 9 times 14, which will give me 126. Right, I can divide both of these by 42, I think, right? So 42 divided by 42 will just give me 1. 126 divided by 42 will give me 3, so I have 1 over 3. Right, so I'm just going to go here, say divide by 42, divide by 42. Okay, and then I'm going to do the butterfly method. So I have 9 and 6 here. I can just cross these two out. I know 6 can be divided by 3, it'll give me 2. 9 can be divided by 3, it'll give me 3. Let's try to do, I'm going to change the colors so that we have more consistency. 7 and 14, I know if I divide 14 by 7, it'll give me 2. 7 divided by 7 is 1. So I'm left with 1 times 2, 2. 3 times 2, 6. Notice how this is so much easier to work with than 42 over 126? Yeah, right? That's why I do it this way. So I have 2 over 6. Then I'm left with, I can divide both by 2. And I'm left with 1 over 3. I get the same answer either way. Just those numbers are easier to work with. Right? I'm not worried about adding up big numbers. I'm not worried about making sure that I don't make a mistake. They're just easier to work with. Okay? And sometimes it's not always possible to do the butterfly method. Like here, it's not possible. There's no common number here. Unfortunately, there's no common number here, so we just have to do the multiplication. But when you can use the butterfly method, I highly suggest it. So you have -3 over 5 multiplied by -2 over 8. I like to keep the negatives in the numerator. It just makes life easier for me. So I have -2 times -3. That's going to give me +6. 5 times 8 is going to give me +40. Right, and I can just reduce this. I can divide both by 2. So I'm left with 3 over 20. I cannot divide that any further, so that's my answer. What you could have also done is you could have seen this and been like, that's sketchy. That can be reduced to 1 over 4, and then you could have done it that way as well, and that would have given you the most reduced number as well. Completely up to you how you decide to do that. Okay, so we're going to do we're going to do dividing fractions, and then we're going to mix it up a little bit so that you can try to evaluate all of them without a calculator. Those ones after, so A, B, C, and D, use BEDMAS, use knowing what you know about solving equations with fractions, and try to solve those. Okay? All right. So to divide fractions, you take the first fraction, keep it the same, right? So take the first fraction, right? Then you change multiplication or the division to multiplication. Change the sign. Divide turns to multiply. And then you flip. So I'm going to do that in orange. Flip the second fraction. So I like to say it as keep, change, flip. However you decide to say that is up to you. Okay. So keep, change, flip. So let's try and evaluate the following. So I like to keep it, I'm just going to put that keep, change, flip here if you would like to remember it. Okay. So it says evaluate the following. So I have 90 over 1, right? So keep that as my fraction. Change the second sign, flip the last fraction, right? And now I can just do that. 90 times 2 is 180 times 1 is just what? 1. So my answer is 180 over 1, or just 180 when you simplify it, right? Same thing over here. When you have a whole number, it's just over 1. Keep this first fraction, change the sign, flip the second fraction. Now you have 4 times negative 3, which will give you negative 12, sorry. And then you have 1 times 2, which is 2. Reduce that to negative 6 over 1. So I'm just going to leave it as negative 6. Another way you could have done this is you could have been like, okay, butterfly method. I know I can reduce this. So I'm left with 1 and 2. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. 1 times 1 is just 1. So you would have known that's the answer. Either way works. So I'm just going to go back in and put in my equal signs always. Same thing here. Try these by yourself before you move on. So 2 over 3, keep, change, flip. 2 over 3, 2 times 3. I'm just going to cross these out, so I'm left with 1 and 1. 2 and 1 you can't really cross out, right, for the butterfly method, so I'm just going to leave it. So I'm going to do 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1, so I'm left with just 2. Okay. And then, first things first, I got to change that mixed number. We don't like those. 4 times 5 plus 1 over 5. Keep, change the sign, flip the second one. Right? Let's solve our first fraction. So we have 21, right? 4 times 5 is 20, plus 1 is 21, over 5 times 15 over 7. So let's go and use the butterfly method. So here we have these numbers. I can cross out the 15 and the 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And I can do the same thing on the other side, right? 21 divided by 7 is 3. 7 divided by 7 is 1. So I have 3 times 3 at the top. That's going to give me 9. 1 times 1 at the bottom. 1, right? That's the same thing as saying 9. And that's my answer. Okay. So try doing A, B, and C, and D on your own. I'm going to ask you actually to pause the video here and try them on your own by yourself first. And then just come back and make sure that you did them right. You can see where you made mistakes. You can see my thought process. The one thing I would actually ask you is most important, and this is most important for your test, make sure your answer is always in lowest terms, right? You actually lose marks for that on test. So please make sure you know how to reduce your fractions. Okay, so let's just go on and do this one first. You have 4, 3 over 11, right? Let's go and answer that. You have 4 times 3, right? So say you have So that means you have 4 wholes plus 3. So 4 times 11 is going to be 44, plus 3 is going to give me 47. So 47 divided by 11 multiplied by 11 over 47. Now, see that butterfly method? This is where this trick comes in handy. You have an 11 and 11 there. You can just cancel each other out. So you have 1 and 1. Right, let's do this over here. 1 and 1. So you have 1 times 1 at the top, 1. 1 times 1 at the bottom, 1 equals 1. Instead of having to go through and having to multiply 47 by 11, multiply it by 11 at the bottom, you're just going to use logic and solve it like that. Right, so my answer is 1. Let's try to do this one first. We need to use BEDMAS here, right? So first things first, I know I have negative 2 over 3 divided by 2 over 5 multiplied by negative 5 over 7. Right off the bat, I should go in here and change everything into an improper fraction. Let's do that. Don't try to do it without that. So I have 2 over 3 divided by 1 times 5 is 5 plus 2 is 7. Right, so I'm not going to show how I changed it. You should if you want to, but you don't have to. Negative 1, we're just going to leave the negative as is. Just going to do it like this so that it's a little cleaner. Negative 7, so you're going to have negative 1 times 7 plus 5. So 7 plus 5 is just going to give me 12 over 7, right? 12 over 7. Right, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to do it just in order. So first comes division, so let's just do that. 2 over 3, keep the first fraction, flip the second fraction, and change the sign. So let's do that part first, and then we can multiply by negative 12 over 7. So we have 2 times 5, negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. 3 times 7 is 21, multiplied by negative 12 over 7, right? Again, we can just multiply these now. So you have negative 10 times negative 12. I can't reduce anything right off the bat, so let's just do that. So I'm going to do 120, and then I have to just do 21 times 7. Right, and it's going to be 147, and I can't reduce that anymore, so that's my answer. Okay. Alrighty then. Moving on, let's go here. There's an addition here, so we know that's the last thing we're going to do, so we're not even going to worry about that right now. But, BEDMAS. Brackets, no brackets, but we do have an exponent, so let's go in and figure out our exponent first. So I have negative 4 over 5 multiplied by 25 over, I'm just going to move all the negatives to the numerator because for me personally I like it that way, plus negative 3 over 2 squared, right? So I'm just going to do negative 3 squared, 2 squared, right? So then I'm just going to do negative 4 over 5 into negative 25 over 16, negative 9 over 3, plus negative 3 squared is going to give me 9, 2 squared is going to give me 4, so I'm going to leave that as it is. Right, it's going to be a positive. Now I'm going to go in and do my multiplication in order of which they arrive. So let's do this one first, right? 525, I'm left with negative 25 divided by 5 is negative 5. I'm left with 1 here, 16, and I'm just going to change this to colors, 16 and 14, so I'm left with negative 1 here and 4. So 1 times 4 is going to give me 4. Negative 1 times negative 5 is going to give me positive 5, so I'm left with 5 over 4, multiplied by negative 9 over 3, plus 9 over 4. Right, then I'm just going to do 5 times negative 9, which we know is going to be negative 45, right? But before I even do that, let's just reduce this fraction. Negative 9 over 3 is the same thing as saying 3 over 1, right? So 5 times negative 3 is negative 15 over 4 plus 9 over 4. Lucky for us, this works out. Our denominators are the same, right? I have a 4 at the bottom here. I have a 4 at the bottom here, so I can just go in and add. So I can do negative 15 plus 9 over 4. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to say negative 15 plus 9 is equal to negative 6. So I know it's negative 6 over 4. And I know I can reduce that because they both can be divided by 2. So I'm left with negative 3 over 2. Okay. And then last but not least, let's take up D together. So I have 4 over 5 minus 1 over 2 divided by bracket 3 minus 1, 5 over 6. First things first, I'm just going to go in and make everything an improper fraction so it's easier to work with. Divided by 3 over 1 minus 1 times 6 plus 5 is 11. Right, just to change that into a mixed number. Right, then I have to do BEDMAS. So I have to do whatever's in the brackets first. So let's subtract 3 over 1 and 11 over 6. Right, in order to add and subtract fractions, we need to make sure they have a common multiple. So I'm going to make everything over 6. So I'm going to leave the 11 as is. This is just another way of writing here. 11 over 6, right? And changing the 3 over 1 to over 6. So 3 times 6 is going to be 18, right? So just another way of writing that is this way. It means the same thing. This is just a little cleaner to work with. Okay? So 4 over 5 minus 1 over 2 divided by 18 minus 11 is going to give me 7. Right? So I'm left with 7 over 6. So now, BEDMAS. We did brackets, we did exponents, we didn't have any. We're going to do division or multiplication. So we have to do this first. You cannot do 4 over 5 minus 1 over 2 first. You have to do this part of it first. So let's do that. We're leaving the 4 over 5 as is. We're not going to touch it. Minus, we're going to do 1 over 2 divided by 7 over 6. In order to do 1 over 2, we're going to leave the 1 over 2, multiply by the flipped fraction. I can cross these two out. I'm left with 3 and 1, and I can't do anything to the 1 and the 7, so I'm going to leave it. So I have 1 times 3 is 3 over 7, right? And remember, I still have my 4 over 5 here. 4 over 5 minus 3 over 7. I now need to give it a common multiple at the bottom. And I believe that the most common multiple is actually if you multiply them both together. So 35. Right? So from 7 to 35, you had to multiply by 5. So I'm going to multiply 3 by 5. It'll give me 15. Minus, from 5 to 35 is multiplied by 7. So I have to do 4 times 7. And that's going to be 28. Right, so I'm going to just do 28 minus 15. It's going to give me 13 over 35. And that's my answer. So this D, number D, is a combination of everything we've learned in this unit, or in this lesson right now, and BEDMAS, right? So it takes mixing fractions, adding fractions, dividing fractions, multiplying fractions, and BEDMAS, and puts it all together. So if you know how to do D, you have a solid understanding of what we're trying to do. Okay, so that's why I ask you to try to do them by yourself. Alrighty, that's it for this lesson. Thank you. Have a great day.